feeling. I have no thoughts. I'll wait for you in the dark. There is something we don't understand that could set us
So where do you think where do you want to be? Are you where you are now? You have a very flexible day job. This other fellow I talked to the other week from New York, he had that exact same thing. He'd made a conscious choice to do a temp. He's got a rotating temp job at this hospital, and he takes off whenever he wants to do a 3-week European tour or whatever. But and that's like it. Is that the kind of life you guys are looking for?
Well, no, not really. We still want to make a living playing music, but, doing it in the tour bus kind of fashion is different. Selling albums and doing things virtually is more the idea for me these days. The girls still like to play out and do a lot of that stuff a lot more than I do. So they're also in another group called Goalie, and they play constantly. They busk on the streets and stuff like that. So in terms of that, they're more into the playing live for money kind of idea, but I'm hoping for a new business model.
Right.
Because, Jay and I are more like studio rats, I'd much rather be in the studio recording than on stage. Not that I dislike stage and I really jones for gigs when I'm in the studio for too long, but in terms of, I'm more like 80% studio, 20% gig, because the idea of getting it on tape and recording is for us. So finding a way to make things that way would be the best idea for me. If I never had to leave my house, I could just stay in my basement working on music.
Right. So you're a real composer.
My bath, my cup of coffee, 24 hours a day. And somebody would support that.
Sounds like fun.
That dudeness.
What do you? So do you have any concrete idea how to make that a reality? You selling albums is a dicey business in
So
it, right?
make more popular music. I'm starting my own record label as well. Trojan Horsepower Records, and expanding to more than just Fluttr, like doing my solo stuff, and I've been producing other artists as well since last summer, and diversifying, making stuff that's
Huh.
a little bit just I'm an eclectic person, so like I got like there's some electronic stuff in there. There's some more like folk kind of folk guy. I'm producing this hip hop poet, that I know from around here in Alston, and and setting up my own label just to have an outlet for these guys, because they are they're artists. They don't know or don't want to set up websites and deal with all of that stuff, and now that I've done it for Fluttr, it's I know how to do it, so I might as well take the skill sets that I've learned from that and expand, and Fluttr is just one more avenue in that in that outlet, that umbrella that I'm setting up for myself.
That sounds excellent. I hear exactly where you're coming from. I mean, so you have the skill set, you've already built it. You don't want to do the other thing, which is touring and that life. And so, I mean, I feel that same way. I mean, I got a couple, several friends around me who they make, amazing music, and yet they're like you. They want to stay in the basement and just produce and not share it with anyone, or they don't care about that. It kind of drives you nuts. So it's almost like, geez, I'd like to get it out there. I mean, that's something I've actually thought about, doing some sort of record. Is that kind of how you started, or is it just more just to find a business model that will get you away from the the night show?
Well, it's a little of both. Like I basically, my friend Ramiro, my Lands, he's his artist name on my label. He, friend of mine, and he came for like a 4-day weekend, stayed at my house. We recorded some tunes, and I really liked how they were working out, and but at the same time, like, he's not a guy that is gonna really push him or do that much with him.
Right.
So it seemed like a shame to let him go to waste. I've been working also with Kara, our old singer, again, and doing like this electronic project with her, kind of Goldfrapp like stuff. And we had a couple of songs recorded, and I just noticed one day, I'm like, if I put all these things that I've been producing together, I've got a bunch of stuff, and it's one of those things where it didn't feel like I was doing anything particular. I just been floating around with all these projects, but put them all together, and it's starting to look. So I was like, well, give them all a name and a web page, and let's try to sell some of this stuff. And the idea for me now is to bring back the single, the idea of releasing 1 or 2 songs at a time. Like, I don't have to work on the big album that comes out, once a year, got 12 songs on it, and all of that stuff. Like, I'll work on those when I feel I have an album. I view the album as more than just 10 songs you put together, and that's what most albums are, not to knock them, but like, I want to release singles.
I think
that's how I write and record. So I record them one at a time.
Right. That's what most people do. I think it's not Phil Ramone, Phil Spector once said, back in the 60s when albums were new, he said it's the dumbest idea, ever. An album is like, 8 or 9, cruddy songs surrounding one hit, one single.
Yeah,
Seems like it's
exactly.
almost like full circle now. But a lot of people are doing that because the people aren't consuming music in the album form anymore. They're picking and choosing. So why the hell not produce them that way?
Yeah, no, I mean, and the idea, like when we were recording albums with Fluttr, of going in and doing all of the drum tracks and then doing all of the cello tracks and then doing all the guitar tracks was, I know that's how albums are made and that's cool, but one of the things I like about my demos is each one kind of has its own flavor because, I go in the studio and I spend a weekend working on this one song. And then next week I come back and I start over from scratch and I work on another song, and that's how it works. So I like that idea of each one having its own sound and character, and with my diversity, one week it could be a hip hop track, the next week it could be some heavy metal, and all that's all good. Like, I should be able to really release all of that stuff. And if you're not into electronic stuff, then you don't have to buy the electronic tracks, but there'll be other stuff on there that you'll dig, hopefully.
You gonna keep the band going, or do foresee I mean, if you get too successful, then you're back in that rut where you're doing all the muck work of keeping a business running. You're not practicing your guitar, twiddling with the mixer in the basement.
Not to knock that. If success if success demands it, I will certainly do it happily. And touring and playing out is not out of the question. But the idea of driving yourself around in your van, and living on the cheap, isn't really what any of us are that excited about anymore. The longer you do it, the harder that overnight trip to New York becomes, and me driving back and showing up here at, in Boston at 8 a.m. and being at work at noon, like gets old after a while, and as well as expensive with the price of gas. So I totally forgot where I was going with this. If I can be successful at home in my basement recording good stuff, I'll be happy doing that too. So, and one can lead to the other. So I'd rather approach it from the angle of, having that magic track that gets out there and people love it and it takes me somewhere, and if someone wants to drive me on tour, then I will be all over it.